Our series starts with Rachel in her white wedding dress, walking down the aisle. Even though this is supposed to be the happiest moment of anyone's life, Rachel looks noticeably stressed. She keeps looking around at everyone with this weird expression, like she wants to run away from this place right now, but something is forcing her to just push through it. As soon as she stands in front of her fiancé, Nikki, to finish the ceremony and put on the ring, her entire last week flashes right before her eyes. Suddenly, the whole place turns into a bloodbath, and the sound of the guests screaming completely drowns out the music. To figure out what exactly is going on, and why this wedding turned into such a tragedy, let's rewind to 5 days before the wedding. This was when Rachel was on a road trip with Nikki, heading to meet his family for the very first time. When Nikki noticed she was starting to fall asleep at the wheel, he asked her, "Hey, do you know Coldie's ice cream shop at the edge of town?" She's pretty confused because she's never heard that name before. So he tells her that the owner used to sell custard to customers, claiming it was ice cream. But in the end, it turned out he was a serial killer who took the lives of over 4 women. He was actually pretty notorious, to the point where one of his victims was 8 months pregnant. And when she finally managed to escape, she made a recording detailing everything that happened to her. When Rachel listens to that recording, she gets incredibly anxious. She actually starts picking at her finger until it bleeds. Nikki decides to pull over at a rest stop so they can eat and she can calm down a bit. But she's actually worried about something way more important than that recording. See, she never even wanted to get married in the first place. She only agreed to it for him. So when he brings up the wedding and having kids, she tells him that a lot of women pass away during childbirth. She tells him straight up, "I don't want to repeat that scenario with my own kids." She tries to get her anxiety out by drawing a little cupcake on a piece of paper. But the weird thing is, Nikki asks her where she saw that drawing, because it's an exact copy of the logo for that ice cream shop he was just telling her about. It even has the exact same colors and angle. She quickly tries to change the subject. She asks him, "Did I tell you about my dad's friend?" This friend had a 4-year-old daughter named Kathy, who somehow remembered everything about her past life. She even used to talk about her late husband and how he sacrificed his life for her. Nikki just brushes it off, thinking it's just a little kid with an active imagination. But Rachel sees it differently. She thinks kids can actually get possessed and tap into different dimensions, and that's exactly why she doesn't want to have possessed kids. We find out the root of all this trauma is that her own mom passed away giving birth to her, and since her dad suffers from a severe phobia, they've basically cut ties with each other. After that, they get back on the road like normal. When the sun goes down, they pull over at a public restroom to take a break. By pure chance, they spot a parked car with a little kid sitting inside all by himself. Rachel is super confused. Who would leave their kid alone in a place like this? She hurries into the restroom, hoping one of his parents is in there, but the place is completely abandoned and covered in dust. Suddenly, she smells something awful. She opens a stall door to see where it's coming from, and she gets a massive shock. She finds a dead dog with its insides spilled out, completely covered in bugs. The sight totally freaks her out, and she runs right back to Nikki. She tells him, "You stay here with the kid, and I'll go find the nearest gas station to call the cops, since they don't have any cell service out there." While she's walking down the road, she actually spots that same ice cream shop right next to her. It looks incredibly old and run down, but she tries to just ignore everything happening around her and keeps walking. Luckily, she stumbles upon a local bar. She rushes inside and asks the bartender to please call the police. Explaining she found a kid all alone in a car at the rest stop down the road. The bartender just gives her a weird look, basically wondering if she's been drinking. But she agrees and says she'll make the call. Rachel heads to the bathroom to wait while the girl calls the cops. Suddenly, she hears a strange noise coming from outside the stall. Before she can even figure out what it is, she looks up and sees a guy staring right down at her from over the door. She gets totally spooked and rushes out. She has no idea what is up with this weird place and why all these creepy things keep happening one after another. But things only get worse from there. She sees that same guy who was creeping on her, slowly walking right toward her. So she pulls out her keys and jabs him hard in the hand. But the weird part, he just stands there completely frozen. He doesn't react to the pain at all. Instead, he calmly pulls the keys out of his hand and looks at her. "Are you sure your fiancé is the one who deserves you?" She's completely weirded out by this. She snatches her keys back and sprints all the way back to her car. When she finally gets back to Nicky and he gets in, she notices a fresh wound on the side of his face. He tells her that the kid's dad showed up, and when he saw Nicky standing near the car, he thought he was trying to hurt his son, so he hit him. But Nicky explains that they cleared things up. The dad said he was just tired from the drive, so he and his wife just went for a quick walk to stretch their legs. Later, when they arrive at the family cabin, she's pretty blown away by the size of it. He told her it was just a small cabin, but the place sitting right in front of her is definitely not small. On top of that, she spots a painted portrait of the whole family, with 2 stuffed dogs sitting right in front of it. She's a bit weirded out by the home decor, but she just brushes it off, figuring every family has their own weird hobbies. Around then, she tells Nicky she's gonna run to the kitchen to grab some ice for his wound, and by chance, she runs into his sister Portia, along with his brother Jules and Jules' wife, Nell. It's pretty obvious no one is really thrilled to see her, except for Portia. She pulls her into a big hug and asks how excited she is for the wedding. And then she asks, "Have you heard the story of the sorry man?" The second she brings that up, Jules grabs his wife and they head straight back to their room. Rachel quickly realizes this story probably isn't a bedtime fairy tale, and she really can't handle any more creepy stuff today. But Portia insists on telling her anyway. She says that when Jules was a little kid, he got lost in the woods, and while he was out there, he saw the worst thing a kid could ever see. There was a man with giant claws and a smiling face. He was holding down a screaming woman and pulling out her insides, looking like he was actually enjoying it. And the whole time, he just kept repeating, "Sorry, sorry." The legend says he does this because he believes his late wife's soul jumped into someone else's body. So he's hunting her down so they can cross over to the other side together. I mean, it's a romance story and all, but a seriously twisted one. Rachel gets really shaken up by this, to the point where her eyes actually tear up. But their little horror story session gets cut short when Jules' son, Jody, walks into the room. Later on, Rachel goes back to her room to ask Nicky about it. She wants to know if this story is real or just some sick joke. He tells her that Jules really did get lost as a kid and came back with that story. And ever since that day, his personality changed completely. But no one really knows for sure if it's true or not. That's when Rachel just loses it and starts crying. She's been through way too much weird stuff today. She tells him about the creepy guy she stabbed at the bar, so Nicky just sits next to her and tries his best to calm her down. In the middle of the night, Rachel wakes up with a nosebleed. Suddenly, she hears a noise coming from outside the room. So she gets up and quietly sneaks out to see what's going on in this creepy house. She spots Nicky's mom, Victoria, standing right in front of her, but she looks totally out of it. She walks up to Rachel, puts her hands on her face, and just smiles. But the weird part? Her husband quickly rushes in and pulls her away without saying a word. He just takes her back to their room, saying she needs to rest. By pure chance, Rachel notices an envelope lying on the floor. It has her name written right on it. When she opens it, she finds her own wedding invitation inside, but written on the back are the words, "Don't marry him." The next day, she wakes up and joins the whole family for breakfast. She notices his mom is totally fine and awake, which is the exact opposite of how she looked last night. She even stands up specifically to welcome Rachel, giving her some encouraging words and advice since they're about to get married. Once she finally gets Nicky alone in their room, she shows him the invitation she found. She asks him, "Could this be from one of your crazy exes? Or maybe even his mom, since she probably thinks her perfect little boy deserves someone way better." Nicky tries to snap her out of this sudden conspiracy theory. He reminds her that he doesn't need anyone's permission to marry her anyway. Plus, he thinks whoever sent it is just trying to mess with him, so he tells her not to stress out over nothing. But Rachel is already suspicious of everyone in this house, and to top it off, when she opens the closet, she's shocked to see her wedding dress is gone. She literally just saw it there this morning when she was getting dressed. She keeps telling him that someone in his family is definitely messing with her. He tries to calm her down, saying maybe it just got moved somewhere else. And he steps out to look for it himself. Meanwhile, Rachel starts looking around too. And by accident, she overhears Nicky's dad talking to Nell. He tells her, "I caught Victoria last night before she spilled everything to Rachel." He warns Nell to be extra careful and stay sharp for the next few days, because if Nikki finds out the truth, it'll destroy him. Hearing this just confirms all her worst suspicions. She quietly backs away before they realize she's there. Suddenly, she spots little Jody staring hard at the floor. He's looking at some red spots on the wood, so she gently explains that she had a nosebleed when she woke up, which is why the floor is a little messy. But right then, Jody looks at her and says, "The sorry man is definitely going to track you down using those blood spots, and he's going to get you." Then he starts screaming for his dad at the top of his lungs to come save her. When Jules rushes in to see what's wrong, he handles the whole thing really weirdly. He walks up to his son and reminds him that they don't yell in this house. Then he tells him there is no such thing as the sorry man. It's just a made-up myth, and he tells him never to bring it up again. When Nikki finally gives up on finding the dress, he suggests to Rachel that he should drive all the way back to the city, thinking maybe they just forgot it there. Even though she tells him no, because it makes absolutely no sense to drive 8 hours round trip just for a dress. He insists. He just really wants to make her happy. While he's gone, his mom suggests, "How about you try on my old wedding dress?" Suddenly, we see his mom, his sister Portia, and Nell all crowding around her, basically forcing her to put the dress on. And of course, since the dress looks incredibly creepy, each of them just grabs a pair of scissors and starts cutting off whatever parts they don't like. On top of all that madness, his mom takes off Rachel's engagement ring and slides a totally different one onto her finger. Through all this, Rachel is super stressed and completely overwhelmed by whatever it is they're doing. She finally hits her breaking point and accidentally shoves Portia. Portia bumps into a mirror and a piece of glass goes right into her hand. But the crazy part? Portia just casually pulls the glass out of her hand like it's nothing. Nell quickly grabs her and they run off to the bathroom to take care of it. Meanwhile, his mom just stands there watching them like nothing out of the ordinary just happened. She pulls out a pearl necklace she inherited from her own mother, shows it to Rachel, and puts it around her neck herself. Then she calmly asks, "You know that wearing pearls on your wedding day brings bad luck, right? Anyway, I'm really sorry." And with that, she just turns and walks away. Rachel rushes back to her room, feeling more terrified by the second. She calls Nicky and begs him to hurry back, telling him she can't handle this alone. After she hangs up, she notices the garment bag for her wedding dress is shoved under the bed, and it's empty. So now she knows for a fact she brought the dress with her. She didn't leave it in the city at all. She decides to sneak around the house to look for it herself. While she's wandering the halls, she accidentally bumps into Nicky's dad. He stops, looks at her totally confused, and asks, "Why are you wearing that dress? Take it off right now." And he just keeps staring at her with this incredibly sad look in his eyes. She quickly heads back to her room to change. She tries calling Nicky again, but no luck. His phone is completely turned off. Later that night, she manages to pull herself together and joins the family for dinner. While they're eating, she hears this loud banging noise coming from the woods, but everyone else just acts like she's hearing things, insisting there's absolutely no noise at all. So she pretends she needs to step outside to make a phone call, really just wanting to see if she's actually losing her mind or if they're hiding something from her. As soon as she steps into the woods, she sees something that stops her dead in her tracks. She can't even believe her eyes. They've made a creepy straw scarecrow, dressed it in her missing wedding dress and hung it up in the air. Before she can even process what is happening, she hears that loud banging noise again. This time, she follows the sound until she reaches a tent, and inside, she finds Nicky's dad digging a grave. She's so terrified she runs away before he can even notice her. By pure luck, she spots Nicky pulling up in his car. She jumps in and frantically tells him, "Your dad is the sorry man. Your whole family doesn't want us to get married. They want to sacrifice me to the devil." Nicky is completely confused. He promises her that as long as he's around, no one is going to lay a finger on her. Then he steps out of the car to ask his family what the hell is going on. And that's when his dad finally confesses everything. He tells them that his mom is suffering from brain cancer and she's in the final stages. Because of that, she decided to end her own life before the disease completely takes over. So the grave he was digging, it was actually for her. They were just trying to keep it a secret until after the wedding was over. As for the creepy straw scarecrow in the wedding dress, that was little Jody's doing. He honestly believed that was the only way to protect Rachel from the sorry man. Hearing all this, Rachel feels incredibly guilty. She realizes she misunderstood absolutely everything and basically created all this drama for nothing. The next day, she wakes up and drives into town. She buys them a special cake as an apology for the huge misunderstanding. When she gets back to the house, she finds Nicky on the phone with different doctors, desperately trying to see if there's any possible cure for his mom. Rachel tries to gently explain to him that his mom has already refused treatment, and that he really needs to just respect her decision. When she sees that he's too upset to really talk about it, she suggests they should just postpone the wedding for a bit, since his mom is obviously more important than anything right now. Right in the middle of their conversation, his sister bursts into the room. She starts complaining loudly about how she has way too many responsibilities trying to set up their wedding. Rachel knows Nicky can't handle her drama right now, so she steps up and tells Portia, "Don't worry, I'll come help you." While they're working, his sister takes the opportunity to throw a little shade. She asks Rachel, "How could you even think we wanted to kill you? Are you just super paranoid? Or did someone actually try to hurt you when you were a kid?" Rachel tries to smooth things over. She explains, "That's just how my brain processes things. Like right now, my brain is telling me someone is standing right behind that door listening to us." And to prove her point, she reaches out and pulls the door open. Later, Rachel goes to sit with Nicky's mom and finds her looking through old photos of Nicky when he was a little kid. She just wants to say goodbye to all her old memories before her life comes to an end. But Rachel actually came in to talk to her about something else. It's obvious that none of her kids are emotionally ready for what she's about to do, so Rachel gently suggests that maybe they could bring in a specialist to help them process it. But Nicky's mom completely ignores her and just changes the subject. Meanwhile, Nell walks in on Jules in the bathroom. She asks him, "Why does Rachel keep bringing up the sorry man?" He gets super annoyed, mostly because his sister Portia is the reason for all of this. He says Portia always wants to be the center of attention, so she just runs her mouth about anything. And on top of that, he says Nicky loves getting involved with emotionally unstable women, just so he can feel like some hero saving them from destruction. "But I have absolutely nothing to do with this mess," Jules says. Hearing that makes Nell furious. She steps closer and tells him, "You're always running from your own problems too. You can't even face the fact that your mom is saying goodbye, or that your first marriage completely failed. And most importantly, you're still stuck on that sorry man story from when you were 8 years old. So don't act like you're the only sane one in this family." Around the same time, Nicky is trying to convince his dad to talk his mom out of her plan. He wants her to at least try treatment again. But his dad refuses, saying it's her decision and he's not going to argue with her about it. Since Rachel is watching all this family drama unfold, she gathers everyone together and tells them straight up, "We can't go through with this wedding, because the way things are going, it's just going to turn into a farewell party for your mom. Or, if you guys are really dead set on this wedding, how about you try to make peace with the situation? Everyone should get a chance to express how they feel about her and just let it out." Jules just rolls his eyes and mocks her. He asks, "What is up with this whole therapist vibe you've got going on?" So Nicky steps in and tells him she actually is a therapist. So it's probably best we try her method. Maybe it'll actually help us deal with this. Rachel gives them all some space to sit by themselves and write down whatever they want to say on a piece of paper. At the end of the day, they all gather around candlelight to share their feelings. And surprisingly, her method actually works. They all feel a lot calmer and more at peace after finally getting everything off their chests. Later that night, Rachel wakes up completely startled. She steps outside for a bit, just trying to catch her breath and calm down. But suddenly, a faceless man lunges at her out of nowhere. He grabs her and forcefully drags her away into the dark. By total chance, little Jody sees the whole thing happen. He runs as fast as he can to wake his dad up and get help. Meanwhile, we see Rachel sitting down, watching a video recorded on January 13, 1997. It's a video of her mom, Laurie, riding in a car with her boyfriend, Jay. They were on a road trip to go get married, and she was heavily pregnant at the time. Of course, Jay was recording everything on video to save the memories and show their daughter once she was born. As they were driving, they happened to pass by Coldy's ice cream shop. Her mom was hungry and wanted to grab a bite to eat. But the second she saw the owner, she got incredibly anxious. She told Jay they needed to get out of there right away. She had this awful gut feeling about him and thought he might try to hurt them. When Jay saw how genuinely terrified she was, he quickly drove off to keep her safe. But when they finally arrived at the cabin they were staying at, Laurie's fear only got worse, because she had seen that exact cabin, down to the smallest details, in her dreams before. She told him, "I'm scared that the family curse my mom always talks about is actually real. That if I get married, I'll die on my wedding day." Jay was totally convinced it was all just nonsense. He thought her mom made up that myth just to scare her and keep control over her. But the heartbreaking part is, when their wedding day actually came. Laurie picked up the camera and recorded herself in the mirror. She wanted to make sure her daughter knew, "Even if something happens to me, I want you to know I love you so much." Later that night, they were celebrating together. But suddenly, Laurie's nose started bleeding. Then her eyes and her mouth. It kept getting worse and worse until she completely lost consciousness and collapsed on the floor. Jay had absolutely no other choice. He grabbed a sharp tool and had to cut her stomach open right there, just to save his daughter's life. And that's when we realize the man who grabbed Rachel from outside the house is Jay, her own dad. He's also the one who sent her the wedding invitation with "Don't marry him" written on the back. He explains that the women in their family bloodline carry a deadly curse. They have to marry their absolute, true soulmate, or else their lives will end in the exact same horrifying way. Confused, Rachel can barely process all this heavy information at once. And on top of that, she asks him, "Who even sent you a wedding invitation?" "Because I definitely didn't send you one. Urgent." He tells her it just showed up in his email. "But none of that matters right now," he says. "The most important thing is that you have to stop this wedding by any means necessary, because I won't let you suffer the exact same fate as your mother." Suddenly, Jules bursts into the room holding a shotgun. He wants to shoot her dad, because he realizes her dad is the sorry man he saw in the woods all those years ago. We find out that on the day Jules ran away from home, he accidentally wandered into their cabin and hid right under the bed. And from down there, he saw every single detail. He watched her mom collapse from the bleeding, all the way to her dad cutting her open to save the little baby. Rachel steps in and explains, "That little baby was me, and this is my dad. Urgent." Without wasting a second, she jumps in her car and speeds straight to the bar. She needs to confront the guy she stabbed in the hand with her keys, because he had asked her the exact same question her dad did. "Are you sure he's the one who deserves you?" The weird part is, when she walks in, he already knows her name. He's just sitting there, totally expecting her to show up, but before they even start talking, he decides to get his payback. He grabs a sharp tool and plunges it right into her leg, exactly like she did to his hand. Then he looks at her and says, "All right, now I can tell you the story of your ancestors." He tells her that a long time ago there were two people who were deeply in love, but right before they could get married, the groom passed away. The bride was so traumatized by what happened that she decided to reach out to the dark world. She kept begging the darkness to bring her soulmate back, and the darkness actually loved this little game. It made a deal with her. "I will bring your groom back, but only on one condition. You have to be 100% sure that he is truly your soulmate." And unfortunately, that curse was passed down to every single descendant in their bloodline. As for him, he was one of the people who inherited that exact curse. On the day of his wedding to his sweetheart, Marion, a man came up to him with a warning. He told him, "Either the woman you're marrying is your true soulmate, or your life ends today." He admits to Rachel, "But unfortunately, I was a coward, and I ran away from the wedding. Because of that, the curse transferred right over to my beloved Marion. The darkness decided to punish him for running away, so it turned him into an immortal being. His punishment was to live forever and personally witness every cursed wedding in the bloodline." Some time after he ran away, Marion met another man named Thomas and married him, and Thomas happens to be Rachel's fifth great-grandfather. Naturally, the curse just kept getting passed down through the generations until it finally reached her. He looks at her and says, "Bottom line, you only have two options. Either you go through with the wedding and face your own fate, or you run away right now and pass the curse on to Nicky and his entire family bloodline. Jules ends up driving her back to the house. He feels this deep sense of responsibility toward her, since he was the last person to see her mom before she passed away. So he asks her point blank, "Are you really sure my brother is your soulmate?" She tries to keep her cool as best as she can. She doesn't want to let all this crazy stuff make her doubt her feelings for Nicky. So she tells him, "I know it's him, and I'm sure fate is on our side. The wedding is going to be fine." The next day, she wakes up like everything is totally normal. She gets ready for the welcome party, the one they throw before the wedding so she can meet Nicky's extended family. She spends almost the entire day telling everyone the story of how she met Nicky and how their epic romance started. The story goes that 3 years ago, she was traveling. Right before she boarded her flight, she had this massive panic attack. She just had this gut feeling that a disaster was going to happen, or that the plane was going to crash. And out of all the people waiting for that flight, Nicky was the one who walked up and asked if she was okay. Even though she hates talking to strangers, she found herself just opening up and telling him exactly how she felt, warm. That's when he suggested, "Forget the flight, let's just drive." So he walked out of the airport with her, and they took a road trip instead. While she's telling this story, she actually gets really emotional, because in her mind, after everything they went through together, how could he not be her soulmate? But right at that moment, Jules interrupts the whole romantic vibe. He asks her, when exactly was this trip? She tells him it was back in February. Before he can keep interrogating her, Nell swoops in and pulls Rachel away. She takes her into the office so she can just take a breather from the crowds and the endless questions. Rachel ends up telling Nell the story all over again. It's like she's desperately trying to convince herself that he really is the one. Nell just comforts her and says, "As long as you're sure it's him, your gut feeling is probably right." Suspicious. Later that day, Jules takes advantage of the fact that she's still talking about the story. He circles back and asks, "So, what exactly was Nicky doing in Boston?" She explains that he was just visiting a friend, but with all these questions, she starts feeling like something is off, like maybe there's a detail she's missing. Luckily, Nicky comes to the rescue and pulls her out of her own head. He takes her to meet one of his relatives. You know, the type who loves giving unsolicited marriage advice. This relative suggests that whenever they get into a fight and hit a wall, they should just hold eye contact for 5 solid minutes without saying a single word. Rachel actually loves the idea and decides they should try it right then and there. But the second she looks into his eyes, Jules' words pop into her head. So she breaks the silence and asks, "Who exactly were you visiting in Boston?" He immediately gets tense and tries to dodge the question. He's like, "Hey, let's just finish the 5 minutes first." But Rachel can't do it, because suddenly she sees a reflection of her mom. So she just grabs his hand and says, "Let's just dance instead." Meanwhile, Nell catches her husband scrolling deep through his brother's Instagram. He's actively searching for Nicky's ex-girlfriend's account. She's pretty confused and asks him, "What exactly are you trying to find?" He explains that Rachel is totally convinced Nicky is her soulmate because of their cute "How We Met" story. "But I know something is missing," he says, "and I need to figure it out myself, to wake her up from this fantasy and save her life." And honestly, he's putting in all this effort because he genuinely believes it'll help him heal. He thinks saving her will finally help him move past the trauma he went through as a kid that day in the woods. Nell tries to be understanding, figuring that if this helps him, she should support it. So she hands him his phone back, and even gives him the name of the girl he's looking for. Sure enough, as soon as he finds what he needs, he walks right up to Rachel in front of everyone. He asks her, "You guys met in February, right?" Which is really weird, because Nicky was actually dating someone else that month. When I checked her Instagram, she posted a picture of them together on Valentine's Day, meaning they were still together on February 14th. But that airport story you keep talking about? That happened on February 15th. So basically, Nicky was in Boston visiting his ex, and they broke up the exact same day he met you. And that flight he supposedly skipped just for you? It wasn't even his flight to begin with. When he bumped into you at the airport, he was just lonely from a fresh breakup, so he jumped into a new story to distract himself. So, bottom line, he is not your soulmate. Hearing this, Nicky completely loses his mind and actually punches his brother. The whole party breaks into chaos, and suddenly, the power goes out in the entire place. Of course, all this completely shatters everything Rachel was using to reassure herself. She looks at him and asks, "So, you were lying to me this whole time?" Our entire relationship. Later that night, the whole family is gathered around the dinner table. Rachel just snaps. She stands up and says, "Look, I just want to apologize for all the drama earlier. But since we're sharing, let me tell you an even more tragic story. I'm cursed, and if I actually go through with this wedding, it's going to kill me. But if I run away from the altar, the curse transfers directly to Nicky and his entire family." And with that, she just sits back down and starts eating like she didn't just drop a massive bombshell on everyone. In the middle of the night, Rachel sneaks into Nell's room to wake her up. She tells her, "I need you to come with me. We're doing something illegal, so don't ask questions." She drags Nell out, and they head straight to the civil registry office. Nell is totally confused. "It's a holiday," she says. "Why are we even here?" But Rachel just casually picks the lock with a bobby pin and walks right in. She explains her logic. "If this curse has been hitting my family for over 100 years, someone must have figured out a way to survive marriage." She came to dig through the public records to find them. Back at the cabin, Nicky wakes up and realizes Rachel is gone. He starts panicking, terrified that she actually ran away for good, but his dad calms him down, letting him know Nell went with her. So, for now, things are under control. His dad suggests they go out to the woods with Jules to hunt foxes, just to clear his head, and maybe finally settle things between him and his brother. Once they're out there, their dad leaves the two brothers alone to hash it out. Jules doesn't hold back. He looks right at Nicky and tells him the hard truth. "Honestly, you're still just a kid inside," he says. "You bought into mom and dad's whole fantasy, believing every relationship has to be perfect, just like the movies. And the second things get difficult, you run. That's exactly why you lied to Rachel, just to convince her of this perfect little narrative you built in your head. Focused." Meanwhile, Rachel has practically mapped out her entire family tree, but what she finds just confirms her worst nightmare. The curse is absolutely real. Every single woman in her bloodline who got married has a death certificate dated on her wedding day. Cause of death? Severe hemorrhaging. The ones who survived? They never got married. They just had kids out of wedlock, like her grandmother. But hidden in the massive pile of documents, Nell spots something. One of Rachel's ancestors, born in 1900, married in 1922, died in 1979, which means she survived her wedding day and lived for another 57 years. Urgent. Hope instantly floods back into Rachel. She looks at Nell and says, "I need to talk to her. I need to know exactly how she did it." Nell just stares at her, totally lost. She passed away decades ago. How are you supposed to talk to her? But Rachel is completely desperate. She'll do absolutely anything to save her own life. And that means she has no choice but to try and summon her ancestor's spirit. Since Portia is super into the occult, she's the one who sets up the ritual. They gather in a room, burn sage to cleanse the space, and light a few candles. Rachel places her hand on the death certificate and calls out her ancestor's name. Suddenly, she feels a shift in the room. The power completely cuts out. When the lights flicker back on, Portia's nose is bleeding, and written right across the table are the words, "Revive the dead." Around the same time, Nicky's dad decides it's time to finally do the right thing. Carrying years of guilt, he sits Nicky down to tell him the truth. "I spent my entire life trying to show you and your siblings that your mother and I had the perfect marriage," he says. "But the truth is, it was never like that. Because a long time ago, your mother cheated on me." Back in the room, Rachel tries running the ritual again. She has absolutely no idea what "revive the dead" is supposed to mean, but nothing happens. She looks at Nell and asks, "What if I'm wrong about all of this? Ever since we got to this cabin, Nicky feels like a total stranger to me." But Nell firmly tells her she needs to trust the feelings she had before they arrived, because everything that's happened since they got here is more than enough to mess with anyone's head. Meanwhile, Nicky storms into his mom's room. He can't believe that the relationship he practically worshipped, the one he measured everything against, was built on lies and betrayal. His mom just brushes it off, acting like it's none of his business. But Nicky loses it. "I want to hear the whole truth from you," he snaps. "You don't get to take these secrets to your grave." But before she can even answer, she collapses, completely losing consciousness. At that exact moment, Portia suddenly lunges at Rachel. She grabs her by the hair, her voice completely different. "You summoned me." "Here I am," she snarls. She just keeps repeating a cryptic phrase. A living part for a dead part, and something stolen. Just as fast as it happened, the spirit vanishes. Portia snaps back to reality, looking around the room completely confused about how she even got there. The next day, exactly 1 hour before the wedding ceremony, Rachel is pacing the room, completely spiraling because she has no idea what to do. To make matters worse, Nicky's mom is still completely unconscious. Urgent. Because of this, Portia insists they have to postpone the wedding. "We can't do this without Mom," she says. But for Rachel, that is absolutely not an option. She refuses to postpone it because she knows if she backs out now, the deadly curse will pass directly onto them. "Ip, was just me being a rebound for your ex?" Firm. But Portia stands her ground. She absolutely refuses to change her mind, until Nicky finally snaps and reminds her, "This is my wedding. At the very least, you should leave the choice up to me whether I want to go through with it or postpone." He looks at everyone and says, "We're continuing the day exactly as planned. Urgent." At that point, Rachel pulls Jules aside and begs him to stay close to Nicky, because she finally figured out a solution. She grabs Nell and explains everything. The living part and the dead part. It's a specific ritual we have to perform. She tells her she found the exact instructions hidden inside a spell book. Here's how it works. She needs a living piece from the groom, a dead piece from the bride, something stolen from the mother-in-law, and something red from an enemy. "Once I have all of that, I mix it together and drink it," Rachel says. "It's the only way to physically alter my fate and officially become his true soulmate." Nell is completely horrified. She can't believe Rachel is actually willing to go this far. "You literally have to remove a bone from your own body." Desperate. But Rachel is out of options. "I'm at the end of the line here," she says. "I have to do whatever it takes to fix this. If you won't help me, I'll just do it myself." She glances at the clock and realizes time is slipping away. Her absolute deadline is 4:44 p.m., right before sunset. Panic starts to set in. Focused. She immediately sets out to gather the ingredients, starting with the color red. And, obviously, her biggest enemy in this house is Portia. She tracks her down and literally begs her for the bloody bandage covering the cut on her nose. But Portia is entirely grossed out. She refuses to get dragged into this madness and just walks away. Things are just getting more and more complicated, and to make matters worse, little Jody runs up to her, crying that he lost the wedding rings. She drops everything and rushes into the main hall with him to search for them. But when she walks in, she freezes. The creepy guy from the bar is just standing there, holding a glass. He looks absolutely thrilled. He's just waiting to watch the ceremony and see exactly how this tragic ending plays out. Seeing him standing there makes her blood boil. She marches right up to him and says, "I am going to end this curse myself. I am going to break it, and I am going to live a normal life with the man I love." She snatches the glass right out of his hand and downs the drink. Then, she intentionally smashes the glass right next to his hand, causing it to shatter and cut him. She quickly swipes the bloody piece of glass she needs and runs. Focused. Since the first step actually worked, she immediately moves on to the next. She sneaks into Nicky's mom's room to steal a strand of her hair. But right as she's doing it, Nicky's dad walks in and catches her. He looks at her, totally confused. "What are you doing in here? Shouldn't you be getting ready for your wedding?" She quickly tries to change the subject. She begs him to at least delay his plan to end his wife's life. "Just wait until after the wedding," she pleads. "Maybe she'll wake up and be able to be there with us." But he's already completely lost hope. He refuses to listen to her and just shakes his head. Rachel slips out of the room because she has a much harder task ahead of her. It's time for her to collect the dead part from her own body. Since Jules is a doctor, he's the only one who can actually pull this off. Before he starts, he tries to make her reconsider. "This is not going to be easy," he warns her. but she is dead set on this. "Just take my pinky toe," she says. Painful. The moment it's over, she realizes it's already past 11 o'clock. She quickly bandages her foot, stands up, and just powers through the pain like absolutely nothing happened. Now, the only thing left on her list is Nicky. When she walks into his room, she immediately senses that something is wrong. He's totally off. He looks at her and admits, "I can't even be myself right now. Everything I was raised to believe just came crashing down in front of me. I don't even know if I'm a good person anymore." Warm. She tries her best to comfort him. She holds his face and tells him, "You are a good person. You've been by my side this entire time, trying to help me be better too." Happy. Suddenly, Portia bursts into the room with massive news. Mom finally woke up. Nicky is absolutely thrilled and rushes out to check on her. Left alone, Rachel gathers all the ingredients she collected and drops them into a glass. She stands there, staring at the dark mixture, debating whether or not she actually has the courage to drink it. Emotional. A little while later, she steps out in her gorgeous white dress, walking down the aisle in front of all the guests. She looks deeply emotional, taking in the gravity of the moment. She looks right at Nicky and says, "I decided to trust you, and to trust our relationship. I know nothing in this world is guaranteed, but I want to experience whatever comes next, with you." Hearing this, Nell shoots a stunned look at Jules. They both instantly realize she didn't drink the mixture. When it's Nicky's turn to read his vows, he looks incredibly hesitant. He nervously tells her that he's going to try his best to be an understanding partner through all the phases and adventures they'll face together. But when he finishes, and it's time to actually put the ring on her finger, he takes a step back. "I can't do this," he says, his voice breaking. "You were right. Ever since we got here, my feelings have changed. I'm convinced now that getting married is just going to destroy everything beautiful we have. Exactly like it did to my mom and dad." Even though his words hit Rachel hard, she tries to keep it together. She reminds him they need to get married right now, or his entire family is going to suffer. But his mind is completely made up. Deep down, he never actually believed in this whole curse thing anyway. Hurt. She just leaves him standing there and runs back to her room. She can't believe that out of all times. Now is when he decides to adopt her old fears about marriage. She tells him, "I tried to put my fears behind me and trust you." At this point, the family is basically split in two. Half of them are still outside, playing music and celebrating like everything is perfectly normal. Meanwhile, Rachel and Nicky are locked in their room, fighting to reach a final decision. But the most shocking part for Rachel is that it feels like she's dealing with a complete stranger. He just snaps. He tells her how exhausting their relationship really is, how he constantly has to calm her down and hold her hand because she can't do anything on her own. He even throws in her face that she can't communicate smoothly with anyone around her. Emotional. Those words cut her deep. She knew all of her flaws from the start, but she honestly thought he accepted her for who she was and was willing to handle it. The argument just keeps going in circles for a long time. Neither of them can find a way out, because they're both discovering dark, hidden sides to each other that they completely missed before. Then, Nicky looks at her and asks, "If the curse wasn't real, would you still go through with this?" She gets absolutely furious. This is definitely not the time for hypotheticals. She reminds him that right now, their only option is to finish this. Urgent. His mom notices time is slipping away and the day is almost over. She walks into the room, pulls her son aside, and tries her best to soothe him. "I know this week has been incredibly hard on you," she says. That's when Jules interrupts them. He tells Nicky there are literally only 5 minutes left. He has to compromise and agree to continue. Otherwise, the curse is going to take them all down. And the weirdest part? The second his mom tells him everything is going to be fine, he completely calms down. He drops all his fears and just agrees to continue the ceremony. But this time, Rachel is the one who stops. She pauses for a second, thinking, "Is this really happening?" Firm. She looks at him and says, "Well, now I'm the one who doesn't want to do this." He desperately begs her to change her mind so they can finish before time runs out, but she's completely done. "I am not sacrificing my life for someone like you," she tells him. "You're not even worth it." right in the middle of their argument, with no decision made. The curse finally hits the house. Since all the guests are from Nikki's family, it starts with them. We see them bleeding out, one after another. Then it hits Nikki's mom. They quickly carry her back to her room to rest while they desperately try to figure a way out of this nightmare. As for Jules, he grabs his son and rushes him upstairs. He absolutely refuses to let his boy live through the same trauma his own dad lived with. Urgent. Then he runs back down to his brother and gives him a chilling ultimatum. The only solution is to convince Rachel to agree. By any means necessary, you have to push the curse back onto her. Meanwhile, Rachel is just standing there, frozen. She's horrified by how many people just lost their lives because of her, and how her wedding turned into a literal tragedy in a matter of seconds. Suddenly, Nikki walks up to her, looking completely broken. He drops to his knees and says, "I'm so sorry I didn't trust you, but believe me, you are my soulmate." Before she can even process it, he forcibly slides the ring onto her finger. She fights back, begging him to stay away and leave her alone. But his family just pushes forward with the ceremony and signs the marriage papers anyway. And in that exact moment, the bleeding starts for Rachel too. Because the tragic truth is, Nikki was never her soulmate. She just keeps bleeding until she finally loses her life.